I read 19 books in July and August. Let's talk about them. I am stoked to be sharing these books with you because we read a lot in the last couple months. Now I did read a lot of these on my Kindle or listen to them. Some of them are ARC, so I don't have the physical copy. And because there are so many books, I'm gonna try to fly through these as quickly as I can. So starting with The Next Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. I loved the first book. Now this is the second book in the series. I think it was one of my top reads last year. And so I had been looking forward to reading the second one for a very long time. It's about this woman who kind of wiggles her way into this family's life, but also like world, and she's very good at manipulating, and she doesn't really have the best intentions. Honestly, it's been a while since I've read it, so I don't want to overspeak and give anything away, but it definitely gives crazy lady vibes. If that is your thing, I highly recommend reading it. It reminds me a lot of Count My Lies, kind of similar vibe, but very different roads that they go on. But the second one was decent. It definitely gave me a lot of emotions, and it reminded me a lot of how crazy the first book is. Overall though, I give it a 3.5. I still enjoyed it, but it wasn't anything crazy. Next we have Pam Kowalski as a Monster. Now I'm not normally into horror, but this was written in such a unique way in my opinion. I don't know, maybe like I said, I'm just not super familiar with horror. Now this is definitely a very dystopian book, so it's not normally my type of vibe. It was a bit like dark, I'm not gonna lie, but it's about our main character who is off to try to interview her high school nemesis, and she wants to out this girl for being a fraudulent psychic, but it kind of takes her on a journey. It is a bit shorter though, so it is a quick read. I definitely had mixed emotions with this book just because it's not my normal genre, and I really like that it touches on different layers of friendship. But overall I gave it a 3.75. If you're into horror and like don't have any problems with dystopian, maybe check it out. But overall the cover I still just think is so cool. I don't know, it was very unique. Next we have Mexican Gothic, which I think was a pretty popular book like 3 or 4 years ago before I got into reading. So I did end up reading it. Once again, it's a bit more gothic and it was a bit more horror-esque. It's funny because I feel like I accidentally was testing out different genres during these last 2 months. It was very like dark. I feel like it would be perfect for like spooky season, but it's set in the 60s, I want to say. Our main character, her cousin, went and got married to a man who's a part of this wealthy family, and she hasn't really heard from her since. So she wanted to go check in on her, and when she does, it's kind of this like big spooky mansion. You're not really supposed to leave. They have a lot of strict rules, and it definitely has that gothic setting. It was a bit more gory for my preference, but once again, I'm in the horror genre. I think it would be horror, but maybe not. So I'm a little bit more sensitive to that stuff, but I do love a mystery thriller. But yeah, it was very, very gory, and I don't recommend listening or reading it while you're eating. But with that said, it was still a good story. I was definitely so immersed in it, and I give it a 3.5 stars. Next is a book that I do actually physically own, and that is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I feel like I have mixed feelings about this. When I look back on it, I'm disappointed, but I know in the moment, like, it was emotional reading it, especially the ending, and I love Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing. So this book is set in the 80s. Our main character, Joan, becomes a part of NASA's space shuttle program, and she's one of the first women to do it. It's one of those books where it feels like women can do anything, and I love that. And it is also a love story that I thought was beautiful, but I also felt like was missing something. I don't know what it is. Like when I think back to this book, to me, it's not in my top books for her. I feel like she has so many other good ones. This was still a really good read. I originally rated this, I think, 4 stars. When I look back on it, it's just nothing memorable compared to her other books, which is like disappointing. So I think I'm gonna knock it down to like a 3.5. It's also very heartbreaking, I will say, as a lot of her books are. Anyway, do with that as you will if you need a good cry. Next, I read Only Lovers in the Building, which, first off, by the title, so cute. Second of all, I was not expecting to love this book as much as I did. I loved this book. I read it on my Kindle and listened to it, and it was so cute. They found family in it, just like the overall chemistry between the characters. It was there. It was just, it was so freaking good. If you're looking for a cute romance, there is a little bit of spice. If you're new here, I tend to like skip spicy scenes, just not really my thing, but I do just want to give a heads up if you are not into that. This does have some of it in there, but none of the books that I read have like so much to where like it takes away from the story if you do skip it. So I just want to put that disclaimer, but I loved this book, the freaking chemistry. Okay, so it's about our main character, Lily, who ends up going from New York to Miami. She was there for a conference, and then things just kind of hit the fan, and she decides to stay in Miami for the summer. So perfect summer read. She moves into this very vintage, like Art Deco-y Miami building, which is so cool. I think believe it was right on Ocean. I could be wrong, like Ocean Boulevard. And she ends up befriending the people in the building. I love the friendships, I love the banter, but then on top of that, she ends up befriending the guy across the hall, and that's our main male character. And I feel like he was very different than like the typical men in books, but their chemistry was so good. She was so funny, like I was laughing out loud. And like I said, she makes friends with all of these characters, and then they end up starting a book club, which then turns into a podcast, and it's all about books and reading, and it is just, to me, it is such a fun, unique, cute story. I highly recommend. I rated this 4.5 stars. It is one of my favorite reads of this year. And that I actually read as an arc, and I am so grateful. And I just also want to disclose that any of the books that were arcs, this book is out now, but any of the books that I did receive that were arcs or that I read like digital copies of, please just know that all of these opinions are mine. No one is paying me. I just want to like make that very clear. Like, I'm still giving very authentic reviews, and if there is one that I don't like, I probably just won't share it. Just so you know what to expect from my channel. I'm not the type to promote something that I don't believe in. Next we have Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. This book was so dark. I'm laughing about it because it's crazy to me. Like, I remember hearing someone say that it was dark, and I'm like, oh, I'm sure it's fine, but it definitely has some dark aspects to it and some crazy storyline. Our main character, her daughter, who was like perfect, disappeared, and then 10 years later she was still gone, and the disappearance kind of tore her family apart. But 10 years later she meets this guy in a cafe, and his daughter, who's like younger, looks exactly like her daughter. It was wild. This had so many good twists and turns. A little bit of it was predictable, but overall I did enjoy this, and I give it 3.75 stars. And I can still like recall the story, like I can still visualize it, and I was so hooked when I read this. Next we have Christina Lauren's The Paradise Problem. Oh my gosh, why did this sit on my shelf for so long? I loved this book, and our main character had pink hair. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? I just am baffled that I did not get to this book sooner. And the audiobook was phenomenal. The audiobook was so good. I really need to read more Christina Lauren, which is funny because the next book I'm gonna mention is also Christina Lauren. The characters, the banter, the writing, the chemistry. The chemistry is like really big to me, I'm realizing, in my romance books, which is kind of a given, but I feel like I've read so many books where it's like just so unrealistic, and I feel like their relationship, of course there are unrealistic like standards to it, like he's like a billionaire. The guy is very rich, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the conversations and things that happen in between them were very realistic, that it kind of helped it bring it back down to earth in a way, for it being such an out there story, because it definitely gives that she's poor, he's rich type of dynamic with fake dating, forced proximity, etc. So I don't know, I feel like it was a really good mix. The overall like vibe of it, this was just such a fun read. I loved this book. This is about Anna, who is a starving artist, which my creative side just loves. She's kind of just barely getting by. And then this guy who she kind of roomed with in college, but like didn't really know him that well, shows up at her door and is like, I need you to pretend to be my wife so that I can get my inheritance. And with that, I need you to come with me to this wedding, convince all of my family that we've been together the last 5 years so that I can have my inheritance, and then you can go on with your life. Those type of stories are just so fun. But this one was so good. I loved it. If you are looking for a like super good like summary read, even, I mean, you can read it at any time, but it's really good for summer. I can't believe that this sat on my shelf for so long. I rated this a 4.75 stars. Loved it. Bonus points that she had pink hair. I love their dynamic. So good. And with that said, more Christina Lauren. Next we have Tangled Up in You. So I read this for part of my readathon with my friend Erin, which I'm so excited we're doing another one this weekend for fall. She and I had the best time reading this. This is so different than this because this is a take on Disney's Tangled, but it's set in like modern day settings. Our main character's name is Ren. Never had a phone. She's never been on the internet. She doesn't really like know a lot of the like real world technologies, but she ends up going to Corona College where she meets Fitz, and they end up going on this adventure. Like I said, it's just inspired by Disney's Tangled. So I was so excited to read this, and it did not disappoint. They did such a great job at rewriting it in a way to where it was still its own story. I did a whole review on this in that video if you do want to see the whole reading experience and what we thought about it, but I loved this book. If you are a Disney lover, if you are a romance lover, like if you are an adventure lover, this is such a cute read. Highly, 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 highly recommend. And there's actually other ones in the series that I really want to check out that are all of the other princesses, but they're written by other authors. So I'd be curious to know how it compares and how they rewrite the stories. And I gave this one 4.75 stars. You will not be disappointed if you are a Disney lover. And I will say there's a little bit of mystery in here that I was not expecting like to go that deep. Speaking of mystery, next we have Final Girls by Riley Sager. I love Riley Sager. To me, he is a comfort author. I automatically buy pretty much all of his books. They're usually not the craziest twists, but I really like his writing style and his stories. Our main character and two other girls, unrelated, survived massacres, like different ones. And so therefore the media decided to label them as the Final Girls. And so over time, like they were kind of connected, but didn't really like get to know each other or anything. But years have gone by and our main character is doing well. She's about to get married, she's engaged, and then she also has this friendship with this cop that actually saved her back then, like during like the crazy massacre. And she cannot remember exactly what happened. She can't remember the details. She can't remember the guy that did it. And so not only do you have that mystery going on, one of the other Final Girls is then found dead in her bathtub, and then the other Final Girl, because there was 3 of them, shows up on her doorstep and is like, hi, we need to talk, and kind of forces herself into her life, and it kind of goes from there. I don't want to give anything away. So this was a pretty good roller coaster. We also started this book in that reading vlog. This one was fun. 3.75 stars. Nothing crazy. Definitely not like in my top favorites of his, but still a good mystery thriller, especially for spooky season. Like completely perfect for the fall. Next we have Writers and Lovers by Lily King. I was randomly given this book, so I didn't really know what it was about, and I kind of went into it blind, but it's set in 1997, which it definitely gives you that feeling. Best way that I can describe it is it just really feels like someone's authentic life documented. Like, it doesn't feel like this fairy tale thing. It's not like anything like out there. It feels like someone's raw life, like the ups, the downs, all of the struggles that she's going through being a writer, and also like living life, having all of these hardships and like all these struggles, the relationships and the breakups and kind of everything in between. It's just a very like raw story. I will say it took me a bit to get into, but the plot does pick up, I would say like halfway. But it's set in Massachusetts during the summer, like I said, in 1997, and her mom has just passed away, and she is completely blindsided, and she's just trying to get through life after that, between that and a recent breakup. And like I said, it just kind of like explores all of the emotions that comes with that. This book felt very different than what I normally read, but I'm glad that I read it still. It's just a beautiful, raw type of story. And this one I rated 3.75 stars, but there's something about it that definitely gives me that 90s vibe. I think just the way things were described, I still enjoyed it and I would still recommend it. We're making our way through. This is your reminder to drink water. I don't know how many more we have, but we're getting there. I definitely have some good recommendations. Next we have The French Kitchen. Now this I also received the ARC for, and I mostly listened to the audiobook, and the audiobook was fantastic. But this book was set during World War II and afterwards, and it kind of has a few different timelines / storylines going on that end up like tying together. Basically our main character, her brother went off to war without really telling anyone except for her, and then she just never really heard from him, so she went looking for him and kind of became a spy during World War II, which I thought was so interesting to read about. And what was also cool is Julia Childs made some cameos throughout it and her part in that time era. While reading this book, I kind of realized that I haven't read that much about war. I also have a chef and her storyline that kind of mixes into it, and then at some point they kind of cross paths, which I thought was kind of cool, like how they were able to do it. I will say it took me a while to get into this book, and there were definitely some tragic parts, let me tell you, some tragic and not like super graphic, but kind of graphic. I rated it 3.5 stars. I think that they did a really great job. I like historical fiction, so I think my favorite part was like the mixing in Julia Childs. I find her fascinating. Next we have Love Interest by Claire Gilmore. I've put this on my TBR a couple times, so I was so excited to finally get to it, and it did not disappoint. I loved this book. It is such an adorable romance, but it also has so many fun characters, which I just love. I love when the characters are fun outside of the couple. You know what I mean? And I will say there was a Halloween party in this, so you could read this during the fall. Just throwing it out there. And the chemistry between them was so good. I will say my only complaint about this is the audiobook. The girl was fine, but I think the girl narrates the guy, and it sounds like a girl narrating the guy. That's my only complaint, is like, because it kind of takes you out of it. After a while I was able to like detach from that because it just became normal, But that is one thing I will say. I would physically read this if that kind of stuff bothers you. But I thought this book was so cute. But they both work at a marketing company. They work at a magazine powerhouse, my bad. But they have like companies within them that are like kind of like BuzzFeed, or if you've seen like Jubilee videos or like The Cut like on YouTube. They talk about those type of videos, which I thought was really cool because like we watch those. She was up for a promotion and then the chairman's son comes in and swoops and gets it from her. And then from there, they're kind of forced to work together. I just thought that the banter was so good. Their relationship, like their chemistry, so good. Once again, a man that was kind of written a little bit differently than like the cliches that I feel like I've read in the past. I had such a good time reading this. I rated it 4.5 stars. This one and The Paradise Problem for romance books, highly recommend. Okay, we're getting there. We're almost done. Next, we have Famous Last Words. I finally read this and it was such a roller coaster. It was such a ride. But our main character is in a perfectly happy, healthy relationship with what seems to be a great guy. And then all of a sudden he leaves for work. He leaves her kind of like a weird note. And it was her first day back at work as well since having a baby. She sees on the news that there is a hostage situation. And when the police arrive, she's like, oh my gosh, is my husband okay? And they explain to her that he's not being held hostage. He is holding the hostages. You're kind of like, what the heck? And it keeps you hooked, I feel like, until the end. I thought this book was great, very different than other mystery thrillers that I've read. I rated it 4 stars. The rest of them I read on my Kindle, and I promise we are almost done. Starting with The Knowledge of the Holy. I might sound silly, but this book felt so advanced. There was like part of it I could understand, and then a lot of it I couldn't. Like a lot of it just seemed like big words, and this is not me bashing the book. This is a book that I want to like circle back to, maybe when I'm like deeper in my faith, because it just felt very overwhelming. And I'm not like someone who's like super new to my faith. I've been a Christian my whole life, but I only recently actively started growing my faith like in the last few years. And this book just kind of like confused me and overwhelmed me a little bit. There was so much of it that was so beautiful and like it's very beautifully written. It was very like poetic feeling, but a lot of it, it didn't really stick. I felt like it was in one ear and out the other. And I hate feeling that way about a book. Maybe it's just a bit too advanced. Maybe I sound really silly. I don't know. Maybe you'll read it and perfectly understand it and just think I'm crazy. That's totally okay too. With that said, I think I'm just not gonna say the rating for that because I do want to circle back to it. Next, we have The Secret of Orange Blossom Cake. Let me see when this one comes out because I don't know if it's out yet. So this book actually comes out September 30th. So it's not out yet, but it was super cute. It's very much giving Hallmark vibes. Our main character has a online show with her friend where they cook like vintage recipes, which is like so up my alley. I think that's so cute. But then her friend that she was doing the show with got an offer to go do a different project. But in the meantime, she was offered to work on a cookbook, but she has to come up with all of these recipes. So she has this idea to go to Italy to visit her Nonna and maybe pull some inspo from the family cookbook. But she hasn't been back since her father passed away like a long time ago while they were there. So it's a bit bittersweet being back, her having to experience all of this. There's a guy there that she used to have kind of a thing with. And then on top of that, her half-sister, I think, joins her, who is like younger. She's like in high school and they're not close. They don't really know each other. So this kind of gives them the opportunity to get to know each other. And so they start working together. They start working on these recipes, but the cookbook that they use kind of has magical powers. So they have to work around that, work together. And overall, it's a very like uplifting story and super cute, very Hallmark movie-esque. I would recommend it. It's like a lighthearted, like summery read, I would say. And the food in it sounded so good. But I rated this 3.75 stars. And like I said, it comes out September 30th. So if that is something you're interested in, definitely check it out. Next, we have The Island of Last Things. This one was definitely very dystopian. So the story is about the last zoo in the world that is actually on Alcatraz Island. And the world is very corrupt. Our main character, Camilla, has always loved animals. She's preferred them over people, and she hasn't really left the island in a very long time, and she just kind of does her like daily routine. She takes care of them. Then all of a sudden we get a new zookeeper, Sailor. She used to work at the Paris Zoo, but she grew up in Florida, and so she has a different type of love for the animals. And from when they first meet, Camilla is drawn to Sailor. She just finds her fascinating, and they just create this friendship. And it seems like Sailor has like different intentions with her being on the island. The story was overall like heartbreaking. I really was not expecting the ending. Yeah, it was kind of a lot, but I will say the cover was really beautiful, and overall I still enjoyed this book, but it was just very like different than what I normally read, very dystopian. So I originally rated it 3.5 stars, but I would probably rate it a 3 star just because it's I don't know, just like eerie and dark when I think back on it. So then there's 2 short like self-help books. We have Dopamine Detox and Immediate Action. Now I've actually been reading this series. I'm currently reading the last one in the series, and these are really great. They're nothing crazy, and they're not like toxic positivity or anything. And I will say a lot of it I kind of already knew. There were definitely some like really good tips in there. I think that these are great books. They're very short, they're very easy to read. They're all on Kindle Unlimited right now, which is where I've been reading them. So Dopamine Detox kind of talks you through how to like take a break from being on screens and being like so overstimulated all the time. Immediate Action kind of touches on procrastination, which is really nice. I've just been really enjoying these. I think that they're great. And the last book that is on this list is Rock, Paper, Scissors. I have put off reading this for a very long time. I don't know why, but it was fascinating. It's about this couple who is kind of going through like a rough spot in their marriage, and the husband struggles with facial blindness, and so they decide to go on a couples trip to kind of try to repair their marriage, but they end up being snowed in into the place that they're staying, which is actually this like creepy church that has been turned into somewhere to stay. There are so many good plot twists in this. I don't want to say anymore because I don't want to give anything away, but I rated this 4 stars and I flew through the audiobook. I think I was doing a lot of cleaning and I ended up reading it in 24 hours. So highly recommend. Those are all of the books that I read in July and August. Let me know if you have any recommendations or if you have read any of the books that I've mentioned. And if you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much. I'm going to be posting my fall TBR very shortly, which I'm so excited about. So many cozy, good books that I'm going to be recommending. So stay tuned for that. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. It would mean the absolute world to me. And if you'd like to see other cozy content, feel free to check out my social media platforms. But that is it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!